Okay, now hear me out on this. While I do believe that in literally every single way, the way in which most games handle saving the game in today's age is more than functional and very efficient, might I add, I do feel like the more time that passes, the more we lose the old art of save points. And am I the only one that kind of feels that? Like, realistically speaking, it's never been something that was necessarily essential. It was never a staple, it was just a way of saving the game that I just happen to care about a lot. And it feels like now, with the increasing number of games that just have autosaves, it feels like a dying tradition from video games that just happen to be really neat. They'll probably just end up in indie heaven, like all the good things video games ever did.
A save point is exactly what it sounds like. It is the ability at any point of the game to have access to the mythical powers of saving the progress without having to worry about the power going out and... God damn.
Hey, before we move on, subscribe, why don't ya? Please and thank you, I'm desperate. Back to the show. I would like to say that save points have their origins from time immemorial, aka the NES, as they technically had their origin in games like Mega Man, in which you beat the stage and get a password. It's technically a point to save the progress made in the game, but that only counts if you like to piss off folks. So, from all my video game knowledge, I can say with confidence that this little tradition started around the SNES Sega Genesis era, in which batteries that allowed games to save progress became widespread in cartridges. This is where a bunch of save points first got their start, mostly in RPGs and games with a similar nature, with the best example coming from the top of my head being Squaresoft games like the GOAT itself, Chrono Trigger, and Super Mario RPG. From there, save points have just kind of stayed the same throughout the ages. They all served the same function, some had extra uses, but at the end of the day what mattered the most was that they saved your game. For the most part, developers use save points because it served the design of the game more than a save file like in platformers or adventure games like Mario and Zelda. In a JRPG from back then, being able to save anywhere will probably make the game easier as a result, so many of them use save points as an extra layer of added difficulty, or at least that's what I think may have been the intent. I wasn't alive in the 90s and I sure as hell don't know what the companies were thinking back then. Maybe I'm just thinking way too deep into this. Okay, we established what save points are and what they do. Why do I like them though? The point of a save point is to save the game, but oftentimes they have way more packed into them. Save points in a lot of games are like a little chance to take a breather from the bad shit insane action that the player just went through, and have so much style and personality that they shine because of this little aura of rest that they give. Oftentimes, these little things can have as much of a legacy as the games that they come from, oftentimes being honored by other series down the line. I think the most obvious example will be the typewriter in Resident Evil, because while the typewriter is not necessarily a break room isolated from the world of the game, it's just such an iconic part of the Resident Evil games. It's unique, it has style, and many indie horror games I've seen pay homage to this little mechanic. I think my favorite example of the save points or saving rooms will be the Persona 5 save points, more specifically the one in the palaces, and I can already feel one of my friends calling me out for not having finished the game after like 1 year of having the game. I'll finish it this year, don't at me on this! If we're talking about style, then Persona has that by a wide margin, and the style of Persona 5 is so good that anything slightly stylistic in the video game industry, like say a game with a distinct art style that is a sequel to a 2000s DS cult classic that many JRPG fans love, gets called a bunch of things by the Persona fandom. I'm not mad. The save point of the game is a downtime from all the and serves as a nice, chill place in which you can travel to any other point in the palace. Reminds you that yes, this comeback views a room with other adults and not children as a place of weakness. It helps connect the two worlds of the game by reminding that an overactive imagination is inside all of us, but some of us just look at it criminally. This is what I feel an ideal save point should be, a place in which you can take a moment and reflect upon the journey taken upon this moment, and prepare for whatever shit is about to beat you next. I really like the save points from the Mario and Luigi series, with them being books and such. Paper Mario save points are really neat as well, and the Mario RPG save point is one that always stood out to me, to jump on it and get bounced all the way to the save files, which is super charming if you ask me. Omori is another good example with the use of Marty's picnic basket as the save point, a relaxing break between friends to make some memories and avoid the depression of the real world. The real world still uses picnic baskets that are just inside of the house. I guess that makes sense? Metroid games and most Metroidvanias have save points in them, and a lot of them are like little shrines that save the progress. Samus has her weird tanks, Ori and the Will of the Wisps has whatever that is. 9 Years of Shadows has the piano room, which is pretty cool, but my favorite Metroidvania save point has to be Hollow Knight and the bench. Just a bench that somehow manages to make its way into every different scenario that you can think of. Why yes, I do want the bench in the world of the gods! After the wall breaking, pants busting, hand shattering boss fights, it does come as a nice break to just sit. But you know what this little bench reminds me of for shallow reasons, because these games are constantly getting compared? I think we can't talk about save points without talking about Dark Souls. It's the save point, and I would have put it in the thumbnail, but I was too lazy to actually crop the image out. The bonfire is not only something that serves as a break from breaking a controller after the game breaks your already shattering confidence, it also serves as just a raw background for a video, and I think that is one of the best aspects of many save points. They just ooze some sort of aura that makes them incredibly distinct from the rest of the game that surrounds it. If I had to describe it, I would compare it to the way in which the internet checkpoint serves as an internet sanctuary. Thing is that this sanctuary is on a smaller scale inside of just one game and not the confines of the World Wide Web. I don't really have an overarching argument as to why save points are important, because really they aren't that important. Even with genres that really used them back in the day, today their significance is often weighed down by other mechanics and additions that throw the balance of the save point in relation to the design of the game itself out the window. Which obviously comes from the way in which games are less focused on wasting your time and punishing you severely like that, but instead wanting to provide a genuinely enjoyable experience. However, that doesn't make save points automatically antiquated. There are many games that keep the mechanic modern, which is why it's still semi-commonly used in many different titles. Oh god, I almost ran out of breath on that one. With save points, it's all about how the game decides to use it in correlation to the rest of the game. It can be done well, and like many other game mechanics, I feel like it can be done poorly. It's all a matter of the design, and more than that, a matter of preference. That's all the time I have for today. I'm trying to do more videos that aren't just video game reviews, but also more general looks at the wider medium of games and whatnot. I've had the script done for about a month or so, and I just kind of forgot that it was there, but now that I have no other video ideas and I'm still working on the Breath of the Wild video, I'm just kinda using the script now. I'm just a random stranger you met on the internet, but hey, just call me Suda.